Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to the Tony and Dakota podcast. Today, we got a special young hustler. Tony's going to introduce him.
This is Nick Pezley.
Pezley.
Am I saying his name right?
Pezley. Yep.
Pezley. He is he's been the OG of acquisitions at Middle America Homes for a minute now. He's been there through a lot of transitional moments and changes in that company. And what I love about Nick is that I always see him on social media. He's always doing he's either in the gym or I saw that brand new, well, it was brand new to him, the Kia Stinger that you got.
Yep.
And he's promoting himself in a way that is getting some attention. And I like watching him do his live sales calls as well. So this is a guy who used to be in our office, friendly competition, still somebody that we can go to if we got some deals, and quality dude. Nick Pezley.
Pezley, thanks for coming on, buddy.
Yeah, thank you guys. I'm excited. I'm really, really excited. This will be my first real podcast, so I appreciate you guys and having this on. I'm real excited.
Dude, your first time ever speaking was at the Fort Wayne RIA, you said, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, speaking in front of a crowd. Yeah.
How'd you feel when you did that? Did it feel?
I didn't feel like any nervousness at all. You know, I felt really comfortable. It just felt awesome. You know, I just love doing that and speaking. Kind of afterwards, it made me realize it was like, this is something I want to do more of. You know, is speak in front of people. So, yeah, it was awesome. Yeah.
What'd you like about it?
I liked answering all of the questions that people had. And I liked really getting into the sales part of things because I've really dove deep recently into sales. And it's turned into a huge passion for me, is sales and like persuasion and how to speak to people, how to speak to sellers, and communication. So being able to actually like go over that and what I've learned is just like, it's super, super fun for me. So, yeah.
It was funny. I don't know if I ever told you. Did I tell you about Kelly, our coach, and what he asked me? Did I ever tell you about that story?
No, I don't think so. I actually saw him this morning, but no, I don't think so.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, so he asked me, it was probably 4 months ago or something like that, but he's like, hey, you know that Nick guy? And he's always in the sauna. And I was like, yeah. He's like, you know, does he do well? Is he making money and this and that? I'm like, honestly, I have no idea. Like, I really don't know his personal life or anything like that. But what I said to him and what I remind a lot of people in the office, I'm like, dude, if Nick keeps doing what he's doing, I don't know if he is doing well or not, but I know he's going to be. If he keeps doing the same thing that he's doing, I'm like, I know he's doing the right thing. So that's what I told Kelly. Like, yeah, he's on the trajectory.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was looking through your social media. It looks like you played some football.
Yeah.
In your younger years. Your Facebook is a little bit more dated than your Instagram. You know, your Instagram, like you're doing everything for the gram. Yeah. I don't see anything on the old school Facebook, but I was looking over some of your high school pictures and that sort of thing. Do you think that sports influenced you in like the way of like being competitive, being genuinely interested in doing things that could push you and help you develop character and like team building skills, that sort of thing?
Yeah, 100%. This can go a couple different ways. So one of the biggest things, I guess I could start, with SCI, the Personal Success Institute. When I went to that because of you guys for the basic, I realized the competitive drive that I have is really from my childhood. My brother's, he's 5 years older than me, and he played football and was playing sports, and I always wanted to like be better than him and compete, and he was really rough on me as a kid, so that's a lot of where my competitive drive comes from. And then, I've played sports since I was like, 5 or 6, played baseball, football, basketball, lacrosse. So yeah, very, very competitive, always in like team sports and stuff like that. So it definitely had a huge impact. And one of the biggest things that I was able to take away from that is how important like a team is. You know, I think it was this last Sci Basic that we were at, and we were staffing that one. And he was talking about, you know, how there's like two different types of people. Someone who wants to get a goal, and there's always going to be adversity that comes up. And the one who's smart surrounds himself with a bunch of people of like-minded who want to get to the same goal, and it makes these obstacles a lot easier. So that's one thing that sports has really taught me, is like the importance of having a team and like being a leader and getting people to work together. So yeah, 100%.
Do you think, so I was looking at your Stinger,
Yeah.
and then you just got a new place.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that it's stretching you financially, or do you feel like you're evolving as a person to kind of like meet that, you know, because like as you start to get into a different lifestyle, or like elevate your lifestyle, you either feel like, oh crap, like you feel the stress and like the scarcity, or you feel like, okay, well now I get to like rise to the occasion and become the person that deserves these things and prove it to myself, kind of thing. How do you feel about where you're at right now?
Yeah, it's really funny you mentioned that, because it's something that like, you're exactly right. You know, it's stretching me financially, because up to this point, I mean, I've worked, you know, regular jobs like W-2, restaurants, stuff like that. And this year is going to be the most that I've made in a year, and I'm really stretching my lifestyle standards. So it's like taking a bet on me. Like I have to continue doing what I'm doing, and like the income. Otherwise, you know, I'm not going to be able to pay for these things. So it is a little bit of stress. You know, I was recently, these past few weeks, like I kind of realized it, that, you know, I've jumped into these things. So I was like, dang, you know, this is stressful. You know, if I don't continue being who I am, then, you know, this could all go away. But then it was also like, you know, I have the confidence in myself, based on, you know, what has happened, and what I've went through and what I've learned and who I've evolved as a person. A lot of it is because of you guys, you know, going to Sci Basic and all of this personal development stuff that, you know, I have the confidence that I'll be able to figure it out. And one thing when it comes to that, last year in October, you mentioned like how Middle America Homes has kind of had a lot of transition phases and stuff like that. So I did around before October, it was like a month before that, I got an apartment downtown. And at that point, the market was starting to shift, and we didn't realize it yet. And our main partner was a hedge fund in South Bend, SFR3. So we got a lot of our deals for them. I'd be the ones who bring in, you know, the deals from the sellers, and we'd go directly to them. You know, they were buying like 90% of ARV. So it was real easy. You know, I was making more than I've ever made there. And then they stopped buying because interest rates went up. And I can remember vividly, you know, I made a video about this the other day. In October, you know, I had one deal close, and it was $1,100, and my rent was $1,100. So I was like, holy shit. I was like, what am I going to do? And I'm alive.
You made it through it.
Yeah, I'm here. So I went through that, and I learned a lot through that. So I think that really taught me how to actually manage my money correctly, how to set priorities when it comes to money and things like that. So that was a really tough time that I went through. So I feel like I have the confidence, and I've learned enough now that I can go ahead and expand my lifestyle.
Right. I'll say that's the funniest part about making a lot of money and stuff too, that I think a lot about is I think about both. I feel uncomfortable. I feel stretched, but I also feel confident on my abilities. But I also know that I'm going to be okay if I got to go back to rock bottom, because I've been there. You know what I mean? I've been without money. I survived. Mm-hmm. I was okay. I made it. And so it's like it's a tough thing though to like really think about going back, because you're like, okay, I'm now a different person, but at the same time, like knowing that you survived that, I think does give a different amount of confidence when you know you've been without money.
Yeah.
And you did just fine. Like,
yep.
All right, if we got to go back there, like to me, I was actually just talking to Tony about it today. I'm almost more excited because I'm going to be doing this down in Florida now. More excited to restart because like it's doing the same thing over again. So it's like if you got everything taken from you, it'd almost be easier for you to go and do it now because you're evolved to where you're like, all right, dude, I've done this before, or you can go work for somebody else or something like that. But what got you into wholesaling in the first place? Because I remember you coming into this office, and it was so funny because at that time, that was when Seth was not looking for more acquisitions people. He was trying to pass you off to us. And I was like, we don't need more acquisitions people right now. We just had Andrew at that time, but we only had like 2 or 3 people working with us. Yeah. What transitioned you? Because if I remember right, you were in school. What transitioned you to like, I want to do sales? Like, why did you want to do that?
Oh man, I love this story and I love that question. So I was in college at the time, and what you mentioned with sports is like I was really heavily like a football player. That was my identity. That's who I was. Took a gap year from college because of COVID in 2020. That's when I graduated. And then I went to St. Francis to play football. Realized I didn't really like it. And was going there and was trying to figure out how to do things. So
you didn't like what? You didn't like St. Francis? You didn't like football, or both?
A little bit of both. More so like I didn't really love football anymore. I kind of lost my love for it. That's a whole nother story. But also too, I was realizing in college, like I had a realization at one point, I don't remember when, that like I didn't want to be like everybody else. I didn't want to have like a 9 to 5 or like work in an office. So I was trying to figure things out that way. Like, what can I do? And I think I actually have the video saved. It was like November, December of 2021. While I was in college, I saw a video on TikTok of a guy talking about him selling paper. He's like, you see how I got this log cabin? By selling paper. I was like, what is this guy talking about? And I dove into his TikTok and found out he was wholesaling. So I was like, okay, let me dive into
He wasn't working for Dunder Mifflin. Like, dude, this guy was selling paper.
No, he wasn't selling printing paper. But yeah, he had like his whole TikTok based around wholesaling. So I like dove into it, and he kind of like set the groundwork for me of like, you want to find distressed properties, go on a PropStream, do all this. And I was like, okay, I'll dive into it. I actually at that point was doing like tutoring during the day to get credits at college. And during those tutoring hours, I never really tutored anybody. I just studied wholesaling. So I was doing that. And that's how I kind of got into it overall in wholesaling. I pulled a list on PropStream of like tax delinquents or pre-foreclosures or something like that. And I would literally sit at home, and I got these numbers pulled off of PropStream, and I just dial on my phone. And I was dialing, and I got to like 50 people. And the first person that answered and said, hey, I'm interested, I already had like 30 hang-ups. So he was like, yeah, I'm interested. I was like, okay. And just agreed to his price and sent him a contract. Ended up, not selling, but I got the agreement, posted it on the RIA on Facebook. So that was like my first taste of wholesaling. I went and took pictures of the property, realized it wasn't a deal. And that was around January. So I started learning in December, and then January I got my first one under contract. And then after that, this is how I did my first actual deal. I found a property on Facebook Marketplace, and it was posted for $45. And I literally just texted the guy on Messenger. I was like, hey, would you take $35? And he was like, no. So then I actually got him on the phone, and he accepted $37. So I got an agreement there, put it back on Facebook Marketplace for $45 to sell it again. And then I ended up getting a buyer. They were at 40, and I was like, if you do 42, we'll close. And he did 42. Seller wanted to go to 39. So long story short, I ended up closing that deal based off of Facebook Marketplace. And I was in college at the time, and it's March of 2022. I go to Metropolitan Title, and I pick up a check for $3,000, and that's probably like the biggest check I've ever earned in my life. And I'm a broke college student. I thought I just like won the lottery. Mm-hmm. I thought it was like the holy grail. I was sending pictures to my buddies. I was like, holy crap. I just made $3,000. They're asking me how I did it. And at that point, that was kind of like proof of concept for me. I was like, I'm doing this. Like, This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. And then to wrap it all the way back around to getting involved with Middle America Homes, Brennan Byerline was working with Seth at the time, if you guys remember him. And he posted on a Snapchat story about like their deals they're doing and like all of the assignment fees. I was like, that's what I want to do. So then I swiped up and said, hey, do you guys need help? Like, I'd love to come in. And then it was like a week after my birthday in March, I came in and like met Luis, met Brennan, met Seth. And then it was all kind of uphill from there. Just started working with Seth. And the thing was that Seth got me hooked was number one, the assignment fees. They were doing a lot with SFR3. So they're doing like, I think that month they did, $80,000 or something like that. So I'm like, these guys are doing it. And he had a list of people like, yeah, these people mentioned they want to sell, and here's a list of 150 people. Call them. And I was like, wait, I can like dial on a CRM and just call them? He's like, yeah. And I thought it was like, dude, this is amazing. So I just jumped in and started calling and learning. So, long story about how I kind of got started. So,
are you letting deals fall through the cracks because you don't have good systems in place?
We've been there before, and honestly, we've tried several different CRMs, and RE Simply has been the absolute best.
RE Simply tracks your KPIs, does automatic follow-ups for you, and even records incoming phone calls.
The system is very easy to use, and honestly, it has more features than we even know what to do with.
If you're looking for a great CRM, try RE Simply today.
Click the link in the description below.
Check it out now.
I like it. One thing we gotta say really quick is if you are one of those wholesalers that are doing that, that is the kind of stuff that we call out. That is bullcrap. So if you're watching this, do not be one of those wholesalers that go and sign a contract and then just back out of it.
Yep.
That's what you don't do. Make sure that you put an expectation in there in your contract that says, hey, give me 2 weeks to find a partner. Give me 30 days. Let them know what you're doing and say, hey, I got a couple other people that are actually going to help me purchase this property because this is my first one. You just be straight up with them. And as long as you set the expectation, there's nothing wrong. But if you're going out there and you don't have the money, you can phrase it in another way that still sets the proper expectations and still get it under contract. So just want to point that out there before we move on.
Yes, 100%.
Like that.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's one thing I did not know when I started, and I had to learn it the hard way. So yeah, that's how wholesalers get a bad reputation. Is by, you talk to someone who's like, this is the property I lived in for 20 years. And they're moving on to another property and you guarantee them an amount, you say you're going to buy it, and then you back out when they've already moved. Like, they just changed their whole life.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad you mentioned that. So.
Yeah.
How old were you when you got it under contract too? You're like 19 or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if the end buyer thought, if the seller actually was like, I don't know if this kid's got the money or not. Like, I wonder if he was sketched out at all.
It was so sketchy. It was the most sketchy deal you could have done. I literally texted a title rep on Facebook. I was like, hey, I've got this seller and this buyer, and they want to buy it. I don't know what to do. And they're like, I'll handle it. I was like, okay. So it was crazy. But
yeah, that's crazy too, because I remember when we first started, so let me think. It was 2018. I'm 29 now, so 5 years ago, I'd have been 23, 24, and we were buying properties, and nobody ever asked us for proof of funds. Like, it was crazy, and it's like, all right, I guess these guys can close. Like, if you're confident, you go in there with a contract. It seems like not very many people. I think we've sent proof of funds maybe like twice.
Right.
And when they ask now, I almost am like, dude, go look at our reviews. Like, we'll close it. Even if we don't have the money right now, like, we'll get the money. Don't worry. But it is crazy how you can be 19 years old, go sign a contract with some 40-year-olds, and then they don't even question it. There's like, all right, that's kind of scary, and why wholesalers do get a bad reputation, because you are affecting other people's lives, and like in this city. So yeah, that kind of stuff we will not allow. So just want to at least point it out. So yeah.
So you do some social media. You've been doing some fitness stuff, doing some live seller calls, that sort of thing. What inspired you to get into social media? And then is there anybody that you're like copying or emulating, or anybody who inspires you that you're like, I want to do it like this person does it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the one thing is like I can attribute, I really do, like I'm so grateful for you guys and what you guys have here in LTD, because a lot of where I'm at and like what I've decided to do is because of you guys and like being around you. And it was actually going to Arizona. Actually, it was Vegas for the Wealthy Investor. I think it was
With Alex Ramosi, was he there that one?
Yeah, it was last year. And all of these guys that I wanted to be like entrepreneurs, Ryan Pineda, they were all talking about social media. They had these social media brands. And I was like, man, I really need to get into this and do it and put myself out there. And I can remember too, there was a guy in Arizona. I was helping Jacinda move at the time. I was staying with her for like a week. And there was a group there that she was, working with, and we were doing an outdoor workout. And he was asking me like, hey, what's your Instagram? I was like, oh, I deleted it. And I deleted it at that time because it was a lot of people I didn't really like anymore from high school. And I was like, I want to clear everything. He was like, what are you doing? And he was like, why don't you have social media? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, you need social media. And so that really inspired me. And then the person that I'm learning from right now in the social media space is Wes Watson. So I met him in Miami a few months back, got on his workout programs and things like that. And I was following him for a few months before that. And really like his story is really crazy and what he's been able to build from. He used to be like 10 years in prison. And what he's built up to now really inspired me. So yeah, I got on coaching with him, and he's kind of got a blueprint and things like that I'm following for social media. And it's kind of where I'm incorporating a little bit of both, like the fitness aspect of things, and then also like the real estate wholesale business. Those are kind of the main things that I'm like putting out there, just kind of telling people what I'm doing, And I believe overall, just like I mentioned with like Alex Ramosi and all these big guys, they all have social medias. You guys have social medias. It's just a free tool for getting yourself out there that like a lot of people don't utilize. And so, I was like, I want to be like these guys, so I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's funny because one of his things, Wes Watson, I don't know if you've seen him, but it's ripped, rich, rare.
Yep.
And so what's funny to me is I remember watching a podcast, and I think it was Brad Lee and him, but basically what they talked about, he's like, dude, do you know how many people are, like, how many people in the U.S. that have a six-pack or in the world? I think it's like less than 5% or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then the amount of millionaires there are, it's 1%. So like the amount of people that they sold the shirts to that are actually ripped, rich, like considered rich, is like basically none of them.
Yeah.
Like the odds of anybody actually wearing that shirt actually being those two things is like less than 1% of the people who bought the shirt, which I thought was so funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is really, really funny. And that's one thing too, that like, man, I had a moment in college where I was just like, I don't know what day it was or what sparked it. I just had a thought like, man, I don't want to be like everybody else. I don't want to be like everybody else. And that slogan that Wes had too, like really inspired me too. It was like, I want to be that. So, yeah.
Well, let's ask a real tough, deep question then.
Sure.
What is rich? What does that mean to you?
Rich to me, this word is put out there a lot, phrase financial freedom. So one thing that I kind of realized is that I don't want someone else to be able to dictate my life, my time, the things that I do. So rich to me is having the freedom to do whatever I please and not have to worry about money or expenses or I can do what I want. I can travel. I can do this. So rich to me is having the freedom to do whatever I please without having to worry about money or paying for things. And also, too, it's being able to provide, because one of the biggest things, I want and see for my life is having a big family. I want like 6, 7, 8 kids, like as many as I can have, and being able to provide for them. That's just, that's a big thing for me. So yeah, kind of that freedom, that's what rich means to me. Mm-hmm.
Have you done any math on like how much that would need to be in order for you to be able to do that? Like, is there a dollar amount? Like, okay, hey, if I got $5 million in the bank and it's earning me this, or if I have this, or I'm, my expenses are this, if I make this much, like, have you done anything like that where you like really had to figure out this is my number in order to be rich, or is it more of like a feeling, or how do you define it more?
I think for me, it's more so defined as a feeling. I haven't like gotten the numbers down and everything. I have numbers that like I want to reach to be able to feel like I'm there, which is like $250,000 in profit a month and like $350 revenue, that type of thing. But it's more so like I have certain goals. Like I'm looking for like long term, like 5 to 10 years from now. Mm-hmm. Like I want what I have now. So I don't really have the number yet, because at that point I want to be able to have my own house. I want to be like buying rentals and stuff like that. So there's multiple things that like I want to do, but I haven't really like got a number on it yet. But yeah.
Pulling data lists like vacant houses, mortgage foreclosures, and tax delinquent properties is important to direct-to-seller marketing.
Batch Leads is the main platform where we store our sellers' data and skip trace owners for their phone numbers, emails, and addresses.
On other platforms, you end up having to pay twice for the same contact if you've already skip traced it. My favorite thing about Batch Leads is that if you skip traced a contact once, you never have to pay for that contact again.
Batch Leads has SMS texting campaigns, direct mail marketing, and Driving for Dollars app integrated in a simple-to-use interface.
Click the link below and try Batch Leads today.
So I want to clarify a couple things. So when you say $250,000 a month, are you talking your company?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And then, so that'd be $3 million a year. What is your portion of $3 million a year? Like, what do you pay yourself in distributions? Like, do you guys have a set amount of distributions already established or anything like that yet?
That's a really good question. So with that, it's a little bit kind of complicated as of right now. So me and Seth, we kind of have like a verbal agreement that like, hey, we're both in this together as partners, because I was like one of the only guys that stuck around through the hard times. We haven't actually put together like our agreement yet.
I said that most of them came over to us. They're like, oh, it's getting weird. Let's go with LTD.
Yeah. They did. Yep. So we don't really have it yet, but what we want it to be in the future is like 50% of profit for each of us. And we haven't done that yet. As of right now, it is commission and sales leader fee because I'm running our sales team. Because Seth has a lot more monthly expenses than I do right now. Mm-hmm. So for us to do 50% of profit would be basically him being like, I'm going to have to foreclose my house. Mm-hmm. So at those numbers, that makes it so that Seth can be 100% like good with his lifestyle at the 50% mark. Mm-hmm. And that I could be as well. So that's kind of where it's at. That's what, that number would reach. We kind of have like, we're thinking about because business can change like that. And we've seen that happen. So what we're wanting is like the consistent profitability of that number, like consistent, close to 6 figures of profit, like for 6 months, and then we're putting our agreement together, that type of thing. But as of right now, it's that commission and then the sales leader fee.
Got it. I'll give you just a little bit of advice, just so this should be a coaching moment for you and for everybody listening. So what I would do is figure out what rich down to the number. Like, okay, what do you need your lifestyle to be like in order for you to feel like you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, wherever you want? When you actually nail down a number and then you work it backwards on how to get there, it's so much more powerful than that feeling thing, because that feeling never comes. I'll tell you, like it never comes, dude. We're making a lot of money, and the feeling is not there because it's based on math. It's not based on a feeling. So really do the math on it. It's going to help you to get there a lot faster, and it'll help you actually know whenever you hit that goal. Sure. Because the feeling just doesn't come, I promise. The other thing that I would say is with the 50% of that, it's not sustainable. So you can't do 50%. It's got to be a whole lot less. And so if you're making $3 million a year, you're probably going to have to take out more like maybe you do distributions of 30%, and then, you know, because you're a wholesaling business, so it doesn't take as much capital as what like a flipping business or anything would.
Correct.
But you probably not going to be able to bring out, you know, 50%. So you really got to figure out, okay, what can I reinvest in the company, and then what can we take out, and then the business still survives and it's still able to thrive. So, but the biggest thing is make sure you figure out what that math is for you, and when you work that backwards, like that's what all of people say. Grant Cardone, Chris Crone, like everybody tells you work the math backwards, and it's crazy how like your mind just goes to work to find a way to make that happen.
Gotcha.
Like you just figure it out, and you're like, okay, based on this, I need to do this, and then it's the same thing with sales and KPIs and figuring out how many calls you got to make in order to get it. It's the same thing. Just do it with your life.
Yeah.
Like how much do you need to make to where you're like, dude, I'm good. And sometimes like $250K a month, you probably don't need that much to actually feel rich. Like if you're bringing in, you know, let's just say $30,000 a month net to Nick Pezley, you're probably gonna feel all right. But it might be less than that. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, 100%. I really do appreciate that. Yeah. Yep. I'll definitely have to like figure out what that exact number is. I'll do that for sure. Because it makes sense, especially when you related it to the sales.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, because we have it down to a T, like, you know, how many calls it makes to get this, you know, agreement, how many agreements we need to get, how many BCs, like all of this is just reverse engineering it, and I need to do the same thing with my life. So
exactly.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yep.
What marketing techniques work best for you guys? So you have a team of virtual assistants, doing cold calling, things like that. I mean, it looks different from our organization. So how do you guys approach marketing, and what does your business look like?
Yeah, so great question. And these are the things that like I just can talk about forever. So we've had a lot of changes recently. The main marketing technique that has worked for us the best, where we've got a return on investment of 12 to 1, is texting, which is launch control. And at one point here, we were doing 7,500 texts a day. And that's our best. You know, Seth was really good at optimizing that. And then also we've explored a bunch of different other options for marketing. So recently, it was last year when we were working with SFR3, we had a cold call team in the Philippines. Seth made that cold call team, and they would cold call people. They would get, you know, the 4 pillars, which is situation, motivation, condition, asking price, and then send them over. That was one of our others. Those are probably the main 2. And then we did a little bit of direct mail. Direct mail was good for us as well. So those are the 3 main ones that we've done. And then recently, we've gone to pay per lead. So there's a company called Lead Zolo. Shout out to Lead Zolo. Really, really good leads. So what they do is they have like YouTube ads, TikTok ads, website ads, and you pay for a certain county. Like you go ahead and you put a certain amount of money into a wallet, and they'll send you these leads once they go ahead and put it in their website. Those have worked really, really well for us. They're very, very good quality because these people like filled out a whole form. They're like interested in selling. So right now our 2 main marketing is that, which is pay per lead, and then texting. We slowed down texting a lot here recently, but funny story, this is a good lesson for anyone who is trying to run a cold call team, or, you know, any team overseas. So this comes down to me and Seth's fault quite a bit. So we wanted to recreate the cold call team we had last year, and the market was different. So that cold call team that we created thrived in that market. Now, we really, like 3 months before this, we set the standard. We're like, okay, we need to get, you know, these many vetted leads to go ahead and get this many deals. And we're like, how many cold callers do we need to have to get this many vetted? And it was 10 cold callers. So like, all right, we're going to start interviewing. We're going to start hiring all these people. So we hired a lot of virtual assistants. We had, I think it was just last month, we had probably like 13 or 14 virtual assistants.
Callers?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And we hired about 8 just here recently. And this past Monday, so this cold call team that we had, we were paying a lot of money, like we were paying hourly for them. It was probably like $3 or $4 grand a week to run this cold call team. And we weren't getting the results we wanted. So we really, really had a deep dive into it, me and Seth did, and we found out that the cold callers we had in the Philippines were faking their hours.
No.
Yeah. So, and I was doing daily sales training with them, putting so much effort into it. And they were faking a lot of hours.
How'd you find that out?
So there's something called Time Doctor, which shows how much time they spend on their screen when they're active. So we went and looked at it, and found out that they were finding a way to make it look as if they were having activity, but they weren't. So it was showing on Time Doctor that they were working, but they were actually on a different screen or just had their computer running. Also, they created a group chat within our Slack, and I didn't even think you could do this, of all of them together. We're having conversations around, as long as we get a paycheck, blah, blah, blah. And then they were saying things along the lines of, whenever someone answers, just put warm lead and then go on to the next, that type of thing. So, that's how we figured out. He found that group chat and then actually looked at their Time Doctor and found that out. So this past Monday, I had a call with the entire team, and I had to fire half of our online team in the Philippines. So did that, and we kept our most solid team there who actually has been getting results and follows our culture. It was 5 or 6 people. One of them we've had for 3 years that has, got us close to $400,000 in revenue. We've kept her, right?
Is that Sarah?
Yeah, Sarah. And so we have just a very much smaller team, and the stress and burden is whew. It felt like there was a huge burden on our shoulders for so long, because it's not so long, it was a few months. Mm-hmm. But me and Seth were how are we doing payroll this Monday? Mm-hmm. How are we doing this? And it was stressful. And now cutting that all off, it was now we just feel we're skyrocketing. We had 5 or 6 deals in the past 2 days with just me and Junior doing acquisitions. So yeah, that's a long-winded answer. But yeah, that's, what we've done for marketing. And recently what we're doing now is a little bit of texting and then the pay per lead.
What dialer do you use?
We use Follow Up Boss as a CRM. Mm. We're considering going to another, but that has worked pretty well for us.
So they can call from Follow Up Boss?
The cold callers that we had?
Yeah.
Oh, so the cold callers that we had, they were using call tools.
Okay.
Yep.
And then how much money were you paying them? Were you paying them $3 an hour? Or?
So the way that we hired them too is that Seth is so good at these type of things and bringing people in. He's really good at scaling. That's why we work together really well, because I love sales and I'm really, really good at it, and he's good at scaling and marketing. And he was able to get the most talented VAs out there. So they're hourly, they wanted more up front, because we were only getting people who've done real estate calls, getting VAs on online PH jobs where they worked in real estate. So with that being the perspective, we had to pay them more to start. So it was $4 or $5 an hour. And then towards the end, we added an incentive of $1 per vetted lead. So yeah, overall it came out to weekly about $2,500 to $3,000.
Okay. And then your lead Zolo, how much do you pay per lead?
It's around, oh gosh, that's a Seth question. I think it's around $500 to $750 a lead. But the thing is that with those leads, they are so quality. It's 1 in 7, 1 in 7 or 8 if you're a good closer. We've got 7 so far, and I've got 1 about to go under contract with an agreement. Also, one more thing. Another marketing tactic we did recently. So there's partnerships that you can do with lead companies where they send you leads for free, and then you pay them on the back end of the wholesale fee. And we learned real quick with that.
What, that's not a good way?
Well, not for us. It's for some people, it is. We figured out it wasn't for us. So what we did was we had them send us leads nationwide. And what we figured out is they would send us a ton of leads, and we had to filter through all of them. Some of them would be listed. They weren't very good quality leads. And our team was spending so much time filtering through all of these. And then once we would get one, it would be somewhere in the middle of Virginia, and we didn't have anybody to buy it.
No comps?
Yeah, we didn't know how to comp it either. So we'd get it too high, and then we'd try and sell it. We'd have to go back to the seller. It was wasting a ton of our time. Mm-hmm. And we actually did a few of them where we sold, and we made a $15,000 fee on one, a wholesale fee, and gave $7,500 of it.
Oh, they take half.
Half.
That's crazy.
And at the end, I'm like, dude, we can't do this.
Yeah.
We can't do this. So we learned that too here recently. So
That's good. I'm glad you said that because I actually have been seeing a lot of advertisements for that. Pay on the back end. I'm like,
No.
what's the back end look like? If it is 50%, then yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And so we do the same thing with people who bring us leads. Like, hey, if you want to bring us a lead, we'll give you $2,000 if we close it. If you have it under contract, obviously, you know, we'll freaking pay whatever. You know, like you guys have made $50,000 assignment fees on us. We don't give a crap what you make if you got it under contract. But if you give us a lead and we got to do all of the work, all the follow up, all getting it under contract, the negotiation, everything, dude, you can't ask for a whole bunch of money. Yeah, you can't ask for a whole bunch of money or 50% or anything if we're literally doing like 99% of the work.
exactly.
Yeah, so
You're literally
that's
just
crazy.
sending us the leads, and we have to do all the follow-up. And it was one thing, too, there's always these gut feelings that me and Seth will have sometimes. And there was a gut feeling these past 3 weeks when I was working on these leads that they were sending us. I was like, something's not right. Something's just not clicking with me. And it was because I was doing so much work on all of these leads to basically get nothing.
Yeah.
And it felt horrible. And I was like, Seth, man, we got to figure this out. And that pertains to one thing I talk about all the time, too, is like working through discomfort. A lot of times on the other side of that, you know, things get a lot better because that's where a lot of people quit. Once you learn through that, you know, you have a completely different perspective and you know a lot more. That's at least what I've experienced.
Yeah, you unpacked a lot there. I want to say one last thing, too, is just something, I don't even know if you realized it, but when you have people that are the wrong people, they will feel like a weight just freaking dragging you down. And technically they are because you're paying them money. They're not feeding into the environment. They're literally dragging everybody else down because they're texting everybody else and trying to demotivate everybody.
Yep.
And what's crazy is it'll be one person. And then as soon as you get the one person out and everybody's back on board, it's crazy how you just skyrocket. And so what you have to do in business is identify that with your KPIs, with your gut feeling, with whatever it is, and make sure that everybody's on the same page and they want to win. Because when you do get that team, like you said, now you feel like you're freaking going. You are. And so, but you have to watch it again whenever anybody else is not with it. And the craziest part is when it changes, you know, like whenever people were and now they're not, that's when it's really difficult. But yeah, like cutting that stuff off is insane what it does for you guys as a company.
100%. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And that's one thing also, too, like, as we've done this and like I've gone through this with Seth, I've really realized like how much our strengths and weaknesses align with each other. Like my strengths fill in his weaknesses, and his weaknesses, or my weaknesses, his strengths fill in for. And one thing, he has a huge heart. So he wants to a lot of times like give people second chances and third chances and fourth chances.
Yep.
And I'm a lot more cutthroat. I'm like, if you're not serving us, get out. Get out. So we have a really good dynamic going on there. So I appreciate you saying that too, because I really realized that like once you know that it's not serving them or us or the company, have to cut it off. So
The funniest part is I feel like Tony and I are both, you would think that I would be more cutthroat. Like you just straight up, I feel like would be like, all right, fire this person, get them out of here and stuff. And I feel like Tony's usually more of like, I don't think this makes sense to keep them around anymore. And then I'm usually like fighting for them, even though I'm like deep down, I'm like, I don't think it's right either. But like, I don't know why. It's hard. It's a tough thing.
It is hard, man. It's hard.
Yeah, I think, well, part of it is just discernment and being judgmental and that sort of thing. So for me, I feel like I'm good at looking at the downside. Like when we're looking at deals and stuff like that, I'm like, here's the 5 things that we should think about and hire a lawyer to do, kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's easier when it's on the outside too, I feel like. And for whenever we've had discussions about it, for me, for you, I guess, it doesn't seem like it matters whether they're like a contractor or whether they're inside the organization. I still feel like you're like, I don't know, like you still have been more like it doesn't make sense. So like let's say Allie, for example, like you asked me about her several times and I kept like trying to find a way and I'm like, I don't know. Then like with Jeff, you knew that we should have fired him a long time ago and I pushed it out 8 months. And it's crazy because that weight, I just for some reason advocate for them. And then I feel like we've gotten better at it now to where it's more just like, dude, I don't think it's working. And so we had to let go of Jacob actually, and with that, and that was hard. But that was one of the first people that I've ever fired, and it's difficult. But it's crazy how different the culture and everything feels now because of that.
And Pineda gave us a decent roadmap for that too, just like setting up criteria and expectations and accountability. And then when they don't hit the specific KPIs that you create, then it's like, hey, we already had to talk about this two times. This is the third time. And so
Have you been thinking about investing in real estate?
It's not like what you see on HGTV.
We created a course to show you how to really invest and create a profitable flipping and wholesaling business.
We show you where to find the money, how to find the deals, and how to negotiate the deals.
We go over live sales calls, including negotiations, scripts, role-playing, and so much more.
Everything that you need to know to flip houses is in this course. And if there's a video that we didn't make that you want, we'll make it for you.
This knowledge has made us well over $1 million, and it's available right now for $997. Click the link below.
Buy the course.
That's one of the things, the biggest expectations, like expectations with sellers, expectations with your employees, because one thing last year is that, Seth brought me on. I didn't have any expectations. He had Luis. We brought other people on. So it's a lot harder to make the decision because you don't have the expectation.
Exactly.
They didn't know what they were supposed to do.
Yep.
So then you're just going off of a gut feeling like, hey, we have to fire you just because. And they're like, why? That makes it a lot harder. So yeah, that's one thing we've learned. Like we just brought on a new kid. He came from the RIA. His name's Bennett. I'm really excited. He's been doing great. He just started this week as an acquisition guy. Yeah, but I wrote up a agreement with him.
Wait, is Bennett, was he a Psy?
I think he was in my
He
group.
was at Psy.
Oh, okay.
He was in my
Was
group.
he's got he was talking about his rich dad and stuff, and then like how he really wanted to do something for himself, and
Yeah, man.
okay, that's awesome.
I've been doing meetings with him and the sales trainings, and he's doing really great so
Good.
far. But like I had a agreement written up for him. I'm like, hey, these are the criteria. These are our company values. If at any point you're out of line with our company values, we're probably going to part ways. If at any point you don't put in the work to get these results, we're going to part ways. So now the expectation is set. So if it comes to that point, which hopefully it doesn't, he's a great guy, then we can have that like, hey, the expectation was set and it wasn't met.
Yep.
But yeah, that's
I feel like that's 100% what you have to do, and that's the easiest way to do it. What gets interesting though is, well, a couple things. One is going to be when you hire somebody, you don't know exactly what it's going to look like, because when you're in sales and when you're in wholesaling, I feel like it is a lot easier. You're either performing or you're not, and so it's easier to measure. That's why it was easier for me to let go of Jacob, because it's like, bro, it's very obvious you're not making money for yourself and you're not making money for us. So it's like, this is not sustainable for either of us. So that to me is easier. What's hard is whenever it's more of like an admin role or a role that you don't even know exactly what the frick they're going to do. And then they get in it and then they're halfway doing it and they're like, that was not what I envisioned, but you didn't even know what it was going to be. And so you're just trying to make it up as you go too and figure out what it is. And you're like, I think this person's in the wrong role. But then they keep trying and they want to push through and you're like, oh, dang. Or the other side of it, that's one side that makes it really difficult. The other one is whenever they are doing it and they do really well and then they're not. And then they continue to go down. And you have a conversation with them and they go up and then they come back down. And you're like, okay, what the frick do I do now? Because there's a weird sense of like, I would say that Tony and I have a lot of loyalty to people too. And so it's like, dude, like, I know Ryan Pineda got a lot of flack for firing one of his guys or letting him go because he had an issue with his daughter and like she was in the hospital and stuff. And so like that was a hard decision. But like, what do you do when the person running your company had something happen in their life? They're not able to do it. Like, you can't just stop as a company if everybody's relying on that person, but also like you care about the person. So I'm like, dude, that's one of the hardest spots that I could see getting into in business. It's like, you guys are probably going to experience that soon too. But yeah, the biggest thing for everybody listening is set the expectations like you said. And like that makes it a lot easier. If you can set the expectation. If you don't know what it's going to look like, then that's what I tell people. We don't know what it's going to look like. Whenever we do have it, we will hold you to that and make sure that it's on, like, one thing I always do is make sure that it's on me, and I gave them all of the tools necessary in order for them to succeed. And then if they didn't, it's on them.
Right. Yeah, they didn't meet the expectation. And that's one thing too. It's like, why 1% of the population is business owners?
Yeah.
And the 1% is 1%, because there's these things you got to go through, and a lot of people aren't willing to do that. And it's what you sign up for, you know, when you're a business owner. And I came to that realization here recently. It's like, this is what I've signed up for, these hard decisions, you know, managing people, relationships. There's so many people involved in the business, you know. This person, you're providing for them, you know, this is their job for them to take care of their family. You know, if this happens and this happens, like, there's so many interweb things, and, you know, you have so much stress. Like, that's part of being a business owner. It's like, how bad do you want the end result? And for me, like, I am so driven by this end result of wanting to be my control of my life and have financial freedom that I'm willing to go through all of that. And that's just kind of what you sign up for.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think that's a great point of, like, having a future that's worth suffering for is very, very important. That's something that I'm actually working through now, is like figuring out, okay, what is worth suffering for, you know, because you're gonna suffer one way or the other. And that's the funniest part, is no matter what, you're gonna suffer. If you do nothing, you're gonna be pretty upset that you did nothing because you didn't go towards your potential, what you knew you could do. And then if you, the opposite would be if you go and then, like, you don't even know what you're going towards, you're just, like, doing the stuff to keep going.
Yeah, and that reminds me, there was an Ed Milet podcast with Tim Tebow, and talking about, like, the struggle. He mentioned, Tim Tebow said, adversity is here. It either just left or it's coming.
Yep.
And that's for, like, everybody. And I take that as, like, 100% fact.
Yep.
Like, that's how it's been for me. You know, there's always going to be adversity. It's like, how are you going to handle it?
What podcast was that? Because I heard that same exact quote.
It was Ed Milet and Tim Tebow on Ed Milet's podcast.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wrote that down, so it's funny because you mentioned that one. I wrote that down in my book. Like, adversity is here, on its way, or just left. Like, it's something. So, yeah, I love that quote.
Yep.
So, are you single?
Yes.
Are you looking for a relationship? We can bump you in right here. any single females, anybody listening to this podcast who knows their cousin or their niece or whoever, you know.
20. What's your age gap? We got to talk about this. We've talked to Tony about this. We know his age
Mine's
gap.
Mine's pretty big.
He's got a big age gap.
I'm 32 though.
What's your minimum age? I'm gonna hope it's 18. That's probably the correct. Yeah, the cutoff is hopefully 18 on the low side.
17 in Indiana, so.
Okay, let's say 18 for Nick. I'm gonna set that one for you. All right, what's your oldest that you'll go, buddy?
Man, I'm open, like 35.
35.
Yep.
Yep. 35.
There's not a plus or minus on that one. It's like, so we'll just say minus and then plus, plus, plus.
18 to 35. So if you are 18, 35 into a blonde, all right, you got brown hair, blue-eyed, 21-year-old.
And you're okay with the last name of Pezley.
Yeah,
you like,
crazy last
And you
name.
like Pezley. He's ripped, rich, and rare. Hit him up.
So, besides finding your significant other, what's your biggest struggle right now, Nick?
Whoa, loaded that one up for me. Biggest struggle right now. This is really deep. So the biggest struggle, it kind of pertains to that, because I am very, very focused on creating the future for myself that I want. So it's like, right now it's business and working out. Like, that's what I'm doing, and making money. A lot of time for anything else is like, I'm just kind of pushing away. So I've been having conversations with family. Like, we would go to a lot of functions, like, you know, once a week, you know, family would do that. And I just have kind of had to have the conversation with them, like, hey, I'm going to be working a lot. I can't really do that. So that's been really tough. It's been hard to do that. And also, too, having a significant other, because in the past, I was not the best with relationships with women. You know, I was very much so, you know, like throughout high school and into college, like a womanizer. It was not good, you know, who I was with women. So then I kind of just like, I was like, I need to stop this. And so I completely stopped it. And with that came along with like not even trying it. So I've been dealing with that, family, and then, you know, finding a significant other, you know, getting comfortable with being alone. That's really one thing that I've been working on, is because there is times, you know, where if I'm not working and I've done my workouts, it's just like, all right, you know, I've watched a YouTube video and I'm just sitting there like, I'd love to have somebody here right now. So being able to be comfortable alone, kind of working through family and like being able to see them while also working business and then finding that significant other. So that ties in. Yeah.
Do you think your parents are a good example? It looked like they were still together based on the research that I was doing. Do you think...
they're divorced.
Oh, okay. So did they get remarried?
Not yet, but they both have significant others.
Okay. Do you think either one of them is a quality example of like what you'd be looking for, or do you think that they did a good job of being parents before they got divorced in your life, or like?
Yeah, that's one thing I can really, you know, am grateful for and respect them. They gave me a really good childhood. I mean, they split up when I was about 14, which was a little hard. But my mom is one of the nicest, most supporting people I've ever met in my life. Like anything that I do, she's like, I'm here for you, honey. I got you. I'm here. Like always.
I forgot we met your mom.
Yeah. She's at the Legion most times when
Yeah.
we're at the RIA. But that's one thing, you know, that she has always been super supportive of me. And I can't thank her enough for that. Because if I was going to go do underwater basket weaving as my job, she'd be like, that is the coolest thing ever, honey. So really, really appreciative of that. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. We got our final question here. I don't know if you know what's coming.
Final.
This is the serious one. So, fast forward all the way to the end of your life. We'll say you made it to 100.
Mm-hmm.
You got a lot of years left yet. 79. So you're on your deathbed, and you have a final message to the world. This is your legacy.
Yeah.
So it could be a sentence, a mantra, a paragraph, a quote. It could be a billboard in Times Square, whatever you think the world needs to hear that they'll be like, oh yeah, that was Nick.
Yeah.
He would have said that.
Yeah.
That's your legacy message.
My legacy message to everyone out there would be, your life is in your control. Nobody else dictates your life. It is yours for a reason, and it is up to you, you know, what you do, what job you have, where you're at in life. It is 100% your responsibility. Nobody else can change your life for you. It is all up to you. So take some responsibility, do what you want to do, and don't hesitate, because life is not here forever. You know, that's one thing we all have in common as humans, is we're all going to die. You know, at some point we're all going to die. So while you're here on this short time on earth, do what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. How can our listeners get a hold of you?
Listeners can get a hold of me. Instagram is one of my main things. I post on there pretty frequently. Nick.Pezley, Nick.Pezley, Pezley, like peas, like green peas.
Except for spelled different.
Yeah. And then I'm also on Facebook as well. You can reach me on any of those. Also, I may as well just give my work phone number if anybody wants to sell any properties. We would help you do that. We do quite a few of them. My number is 260-264-8069.
We'll just edit that later and put our number in there.
That'd be so funny.
It's like, instead of his voice, it's like Cody, and he's just like 260. His voice just changes for a second.
Yeah, if you guys are watching this and you got a deal and it's outside of our buying area, then call Nick.
Yep, Ohio. We're doing Ohio and Indiana. Anywhere in Ohio and anywhere in Indiana.
Oh, you guys aren't going out further anymore?
No.
Okay.
No. We realized that.
They do South Bend, they do Indy, they do Anderson, Indiana, they do
LaPorte.
Indian. You do a lot in Indianapolis, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
We do a lot in the Michigan area, a lot in Indianapolis, a lot in Fort Wayne, and we are big in the Dayton market as
Okay.
of right now.
You heard him. Downtown Detroit. They got it.
Downtown Detroit, $1,000.
All right. Any final thoughts you want to share with our viewers?
No, I mean, I really, really do appreciate you guys. You know, if you guys want to at any point get into, you know, personal development, real estate, anything like that, these guys are your go-to. Two of the most genuine people that I know, have really, really, I don't know where I'd be, you know, if it wasn't for you guys. I can remember, I think it was like the second month I was here, and it was the Sci Basic that was coming up. And if I didn't go to that, I don't know where I'd be. And a lot of that is attributed to you. And I can remember, Tony, you know, you were pushing me to go. I was like one of the last people. So yeah, can't appreciate you guys enough. And I, you know, yeah, wouldn't know where I'd be without you. So if you guys need anything, hit these guys up.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Cool, man. Well,
Cool.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank
you.
you.
I think that, yeah, we're excited for where you're at, what path you're on. Like I said in the beginning of the podcast, the trajectory that you're on is a very good trajectory. You know, regardless of how you end up getting there, like you keep doing what you're doing, you're gonna be on the right path. So,
Appreciate that.
and yeah, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.
Peace.